So, okay, look, we've been talking about the economy, and someone brought up a good point, and I think in the Lemonade Stand Discord, which is like, yes, okay, people are struggling. Yes, okay, unemployment's rising. Yes, okay, people are defaulting on their student loans, credit card loans, auto loans, etc. However, a real sincere question is, do they even matter? Does the regular person even matter anymore when all the spending is driven by the top 10%? And so there apparently is a new How Money Works video that covers this exact topic that is, I don't know, doing really well. Why you don't matter anymore, economically speaking. My opinion is that you do matter, and not like in a moral way, not like in a, you're so special, as in like it will affect the economy. It is delayed impact, but it will trickle up to serious damage. That is what I believe, but I'm interested in hearing a counterpoint because I think it's a fair argument.
A new report has revealed that there are now more private equity firms in America than there are McDonald's.
This was the guy that said he read this. There was a guy in here yesterday saying, I just read an interesting stat that there's more private equity firms than McDonald's. And then everybody in chats backed up that stat and they said it was from the same YouTube video they all watched.
So yeah, that wasn't a typo. There are now 19,000 private equity funds in the US and only 14,000 McDonald's locations. The statistic was...
I think what he's calling for is a drastic increase in the amount of McDonald's we have. And I support it. The only way to make American economy healthy again is to skyrocket the number of McDonald's. There should be a law passed that for every private equity firm we open 2 McDonald's. That way, no matter what, we'll end up with an economy that has plenty of fast food and plenty of private equity.
GDP is normally calculated by summing together household consumption, investment, government spending, and exports, and then subtracting.
What about love? How money works? Where does that factor in the equation? What about personality? We should have a vibes GDP, okay? That factors in how we're feeling.
In Q1 of this year, imports into America spiked by over 38% from the quarter before.
Tariffs.
This was mostly because big retailers wanted to stock up on inventory before tariffs took effect so they could remain cost competitive for a few more months.
Yeah.
But in Q2, after they had already filled all of their warehouses, they didn't need to bring in more inventory from overseas, so imports dropped by over 29%. Now, remember, when the economists do their calculations, they subtract imports. So on paper, a crash in import volume is actually good for GDP numbers. In reality though, international trade swinging this wildly over 6 months in the biggest economy in the world is not great.
I mean, the main thing is like, when is this warehouse inventory going to run out? It's going to be different for each company, but like as it runs out, they have to resupply at the higher tariff rate and they will have to raise prices. I mean, it's happening. I mean, Disney just did this, so it's happening, but that's the main thing. It's like when the stuff you pre-stocked on runs out, the cost will get passed along.
If we ignored the wild swings in import volumes, GDP would have actually shrunk by 1.2% at an annualized rate. Now, as a small little side note, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, I'm sure the comment section can tell you what that's an indication of. Personal consumption now accounts for 68% of all of our economic activity, well above most other advanced economies, which is clearly not ideal, but it has given us 2 pieces of false confidence. The first is that since so much of the economy relies...
I assume he's going to say, if our economy relies on consumer spending, and consumer spending is 90% driven by the top earners, that the regular people don't matter. Their spending doesn't matter.
The companies that have been performing best over the last 5 years have been in industries catering to wealthy consumers or to investor hype. Ferrari is now worth twice as much as Honda.
Dude, I didn't know that. That's actually crazy. As a Honda hog myself, sad to see. How many Nikes is that? Neither of these are one Nike.
And even Walmart is changing its business.
This is kind of unrelated, but it's kind of related to China. Ford, their stock keeps getting pummeled. Like Ford is not doing well. I totally get that. But their CEO is like every single day talking about like in the most depressed terms, how much he's getting cooked by China. And he's not lying, and I appreciate his honesty. But like every single day, the Ford CEO is like, just got back from a trip to China. It's fucking over. What's the point? I saw their factories. What's the point? You think I'm exaggerating? That's exactly what he's talking like. Like about 6 months ago, where we talked about his BYD car. He bought a BYD car. He drove it. He's like, damn, this is a great fucking car. He like shilled for BYD. Or a Xiaomi. I'm sorry, a Xiaomi SU7, not a BYD. A Xiaomi SU7, which is the one I want as well. But I'm talking about like a few days ago. He's like, I got back from a factory in China and I'm just depressed. It's like, have some fighting spirit, bro.
And even Walmart is changing its business model to cater to more upmarket shoppers.
Dude, speaking of the fucking economy and how insane it is, you know how Walmart's really boosting its stock? It's partnering with ChatGPT. At this point, every single company that wants to grow their stock has to announce a big deal with ChatGPT. Every 3 days, another major company announces a big partnership with OpenAI. It's wild. Broadcom just did it. Obviously, Oracle did it. NVIDIA did it. AMD did it. Every single company just goes OpenAI and their stock pumps. And now Walmart's doing it. By the way, I cannot wait to be asking questions on ChatGPT and being told how I can get that at Walmart. It is going to tell you the new catalog that includes apparel, entertainment, packaged food, and other products from Walmart. Your Walmart account is automatically leaked to your ChatGPT account, and it launches in the fall. That's crazy.
Over the last 40 years, personal productivity has doubled, even accounting for inflation. That means the average American is now producing twice as much as they were 40 years ago. And this has given even average people access to comforts, conveniences, and experiences that they just wouldn't have had back then. And yet, when asked, slightly more than half of you that responded still said you would prefer to live back then. So we are all remembering history through rose-tinted glasses, or has this doubling of economic output actually been—
Think about this too. People always give a actually response of like, you know, when you talk about the economy being more evenly distributed or having a better shot to get on the ladder in like times with higher union and higher marginal tax rate, like 50s, 60s, 70s. They'll be like, listen, buddy, the average person back then didn't even have a fucking TV, or they'll mention like, they'll do it through the lens of consumer goods. And I just want to say, it is very true that over the past decades, consumer goods have on the whole gotten way cheaper. People live the lives of kings compared to people from decades ago in terms of consumer goods. But that doesn't apply to scarce goods like college cost, housing, medical care. Like there's few things that are like scarce and they are extremely expensive. I hope this is not pre-wide. I hope this is not in the video. You are having a better TV experience. You have more toys than you ever had before. You can afford more Funko Pops. In many ways, you are living in a time of plenty, but in terms of the things that actually matter to a core fulfilling life, they're more expensive than ever, and they've outpaced the gain of wages. Like I will say, like someone said Silksong, but that's actually an example of like, it's never been a better time in human history to be a gamer for cost. You are getting the best deal on the best variety of games ever. There's so much opportunity. So I truly agree, it has gotten better. The competition in that industry has driven prices down and quality up for decades now, and it's awesome. But there's a lot of industries where there is no competition and it has not been driving prices down and quality up, and they've gotten more and more scarce. Because your wages haven't kept up, it's becoming harder and harder to afford those key markers of like a quality life. So that's what I'm talking about when I mention that. It is confusing, but I'm not swayed by the idea that, well, people couldn't afford even a fucking TV in their house back then or something.
The median isn't skewed by the uber rich like the average is, and that's 20% after inflation, so we should theoretically be 20% better off. And we are, but only in areas that don't really matter.
Oh, he's gonna
Travel,
say it.
Technology, on-demand services, clothing.
All right, this is exactly what he's gonna say. I swear to God, I have not pre-watched, but this is gonna be the same thing. Honestly, if I had pre-watched, I wouldn't have said it so. This is so insane. This is like, this is too on the nose. I literally thought this would be so different from what he's saying. Honestly, the point of this video, it feels like it's the opposite of the title. I thought I was gonna have to argue with this video, and instead I'm just agreeing with it. So I misunderstood.
For a lot of people, their strongest tangible connection to economic prosperity is the car they are paying off over the next 84 months. But there is one much bigger factor which is a lot harder to capture with these numbers. And
are you gonna mention rising auto defaults or no? I'm gonna guess. That would be the next thing I would mention. I'm gonna see if I'm pre-watching here. The next thing would be rising auto defaults.
It's how people have earned that money. Your consumption may not matter to the overall economy. Today, losing your job at some point is the expectation. A lot of young workers treat it almost like a joke to make content out of, although this could be some kind of brain rot coping mechanism that I don't fully understand. Anyway, modern technologies have made a lot of—
Okay, he said anyway, so I assume he's moving on, so I'll say something else. Yeah, the numbers are pretty crazy on how much each new generation increases the amount of job switching they do. And I assume it's just demanded by the market. But like, if you looked at, for example, Gen X or boomers, it was like one job every 10 years, 8 to 10 years, something like that. And then with millennials, it was like switching jobs every 3 to 4. And now with Gen Z, it's like switching jobs every 1 to 2. Like in over a 10-year period, they have an average of like 5 to 7 jobs. Part of it is because it's the best way to get any wage increases. Like that's become the meta. It's like really hard to get raises at a job and much easier to switch jobs and get a higher rate. I mean, that's becoming harder now because there's no fucking jobs to switch to, but that was the way before this. Like if you flash back maybe a year and a half ago, that was the only way. But yeah, someone said that, like, that's not enough time to get good. I fully agree. I truly think your first year at a job, you just don't contribute that much. I feel like most people's first year is still like kind of getting up to speed. I mean, you're contributing at something, but you're not like a powerful contributor. The idea that you work there a year, maybe finally get your footing, and then you're gone within 8 months of that is you're never adapting anywhere. You're not becoming like you don't have any deep process knowledge of how to do the job well or understand the area. Yeah, I fully agree. Like it's 2+ years to even start to get good.
Travel agents, junior analysts, stockbrokers, and an array of other jobs all mostly followed the same trend. These people became far more productive, but also far easier to replace. User-friendly and standardized technologies meant most people could get up to speed with a job within a week or two, as long as they knew how to use a suite of software.
I'm not sure I agree with this. I think that's what it feels like on the surface, but in practice, there's a big difference between someone who understands the little stuff and someone who doesn't. I'm not saying that for every job, and I certainly don't know every job, but just because the tech has made some parts of it more automated, I think that just makes the other parts that you can actually get good at even more important. And that takes time and effort and practice and mentoring and all that.
In some tragic irony, this trend has gone so far that even multimillionaires are being pushed out of coveted goods and services by billionaires with more purchasing power.
I appreciate that because people don't think about the millionaires, right? Like we get lumped in with the billionaires, but the millionaires really have it rough. Why are you guys saying F you?
All right, so your consumption and your labor might not matter to the economy, but what about your ability to invest?
Okay, I'm aligned here. I'm aligned seriously. It's like, it's really fucked up, honestly. Us millionaires are we're getting pressured a lot. I saw an article, I don't know if this was like Wall Street Journal or something, but it's like all the upper middle class people are getting furious at the fact that they're getting priced out of all the things that used to be the luxuries they were looking for are now overcrowded and all the good stuff is too expensive for them. It's like the example they use is like airport lounges. It used to be like the airport lounge is like a pretty cool exclusive place if you have like an exclusive card, but now they're all packed and like they can't afford like the super like exclusive country club or something. The basic nice vacations are all crowded. And the really expensive ones they can't afford. Northern Alliance says this? Wait, really? Unironically? I want a clip. I want a librarian clip. This phenomenon brought you to my debt? No, but actually, because the other thing I was reading is that people who make $300K a year are finding themselves still paycheck to paycheck because they are now going into debt to keep up with the Joneses on these expensive things. So they make $300K a year, but they feel like they have to have more because they feel like they're behind where they should be for a $300K a year job. So they're taking on debt.
And I'm sitting there like, why the fuck did I get TSA pre?
Dude, now you're getting it. That's why they need to make new airport lounges that are exclusive again. Because the airport lounges have now become Gen Pop. They need to have and I'm not even saying I would be in the super cool lounge, but at least some of the cool people would go to the super cool lounge and then I could get into the Gen Pop lounge and get like an orange juice or whatever. I'd rather load up all the suitcases on the chairs beside me, spread out so like my family takes up like 6 or 7 seats right next to the gate. So we're the only people who can hear what the speaker is saying because we can actually hear it from their mouth instead of through the cooked ass overhead speaker 300 feet up in the air.
And you're so early that there's another flight taking off from that gate before yours.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
So there's other people waiting who are just mad at you.
And then I stand up when they say, like, in 30 minutes, we're going to begin boarding. I stand up, and I don't line up because I'm not zone 1. But I stand.
It's just him talking about airports. But true. Thank you, librarian, for that. Yeah. But the general sense of airport lounges, like let me see if I can find the article. Should airport lounges be harder to get into? Airport lounges are now a crowded waste of time from like a travel guide. This is the trend. It's gatekeeping, literal gatekeeping. Yeah.
It's great that more people are getting into the market, but if you are paying off a 20% APR car loan and putting $500 a month into Robinhood, you are not an investor. You are just really bad at allocating capital. Now, what all of this means is that most economic participants
Fake news. If you make the right picks, okay, on Robinhood, you are an investor. You are going to make it rich. In fact, what I often recommend to young people is you could own something. Like you could buy a car out. You could buy a used car outright, or you could lease a car and borrow it. The reason you want to lease it is because the money you save from not spending it all up front, you can put into the market. So you should lease a car, you should rent a place. Everything you can rent, you should do that. So you have more upfront capital to make big money in the market. You put that shit into fucking 0 DTEs, you put that into crypto, and you're gonna out earn what you'd make on the interest payment. That's how my grandpa did it. Yeah, 100x leverage gold. Does that exist? That's the most degenerate thing I've ever heard. Wait, does that exist? 100x leveraged gold ETF. God, I hate leveraged ETFs. The fact that they exist makes me think every investment is fucking mispriced. Because anytime any individual stock or asset class goes up for more than a month, people start piling in to like 3x Tesla ETF or 3x gold ETF or whatever. They just start piling into these fucking, what does leverage mean? It means debt. They use debt to amplify your bet. Like you could buy a stock of Tesla, one share of Tesla, okay? And let's say the share is $100 and it goes to, I don't know, 150, okay? You made $50 profit. Or you can put your money into a 3x leveraged Tesla ETF, where that uses debt to amplify your bet. So it's an ETF that tracks the performance of Tesla, but is 3x multiplied in terms of up and down. So you're not really owning a share of Tesla, you're just betting on the direction of Tesla. But if that goes up the same amount, you would make you'd make 150. Okay, but you also lose money much quicker. And, you know, this is a little more complicated, but because of the way it rebalances daily to keep tracking this, over the long term, your investment pretty much always goes to zero. So it only works short term. The way it constantly rebalances means that what you own in the ETF gets eroded over time. So you basically can only do it for a short-term play. These single stock leveraged ETFs have become way more popular in the past like 2 years. Like massively more popular. And it's just ways for people to make insane degenerate bets on one single play. An ETF is supposed to be like it's designed to be like a broad-based fund to minimize your risk. You can see it here, all right? So rather than invest in the NASDAQ or the S&P 500, you could have got insane returns in Tesla 3. But like if Tesla dips even slightly, your investment's wiped out. Your losses are amplified just as big as your gains. So just worth noting. It's just very casino pilled, you know?
In 2006, a series of reports were leaked from Citigroup's asset management team dealing specifically with ultra-high net worth clients. In these reports, they described a plutonomy, a combination of plutocracy and economy where economic growth is powered by and largely consumed by a wealthy few. In a plutonomy, there is no such animal as the US consumer or the UK consumer, or indeed the Russian.
You know, the same thing was described in 1929.
Now, Citi has tried really hard to scrape this report off the internet, so I am going to go ahead and leave a link to it below.
Cool.
It's a dense investment thesis, but also genuinely very scary. Now, of course, there is still one way that you matter in the economy, and this report covered that as well. Whilst the rich are getting a greater share of the wealth and the poor a lesser share, political enfranchisement remains as was: one person, one vote. In plain English, the biggest risk to their clients was that votes were somewhat evenly distributed. Fortunately for them, we are really bad at spending them wisely. Go and watch this video next to see just the latest example of people clearly voting against their own best interests, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
Good video. I mean, I think it's a fair thesis. I disagree, I guess, that it won't work itself out. Not in a good way. I mean, like that people, even at the smaller end of the income pie, taking on debt to maintain consumption that they can't pay back will eventually impact the bottom lines of banks, which will impact their stock performance, which will impact the willingness of rich people to spend, which will cause a recursive loop to cause those other investments to go down, which, yeah, I think it does follow. The fact that they don't seem immediately important is not, I think, that they won't have an effect. But, you know, I think it's a fair argument. They aren't providing much of the spending. Can you make a Bloons analogy? It's like in Bloons, if what's the balloon, the nail gun balloon? The tack shooter. It's like if the tack shooter in Bloons Tower Defense 6 has all the pops. It like popped all the balloons. And you're like, well, we don't need any of the other monkeys because the tack shooter's doing all the work. But then you realize that the glue gunner has been helping a lot by keeping the balloons in the tack shooter's range. And you get rid of the glue gunner thinking it doesn't matter, but then all the balloons shoot past the tack and they get out. And you only looked at the numbers. You're like, oh my God, the tack shooter was the only important one, but it actually was part of an ecosystem. And every little piece mattered to keep the tack shooter on top. And once the tack shooter doesn't have that support system, its entire pop strategy falls apart. I'm the only one on Twitch that could have made that analogy.